Okay, we're here with Mom and Dad at the farm. It's the 11th of January 2019, brand new year. And this story we're going to call Our First Child. Okay?
Yes, yeah.
We got a housing project in
Southeast.
southeast Portland. It's called Columbia Villa, and it was for
Low-income people, basically.
low-income families. And our brothers had stayed in that same housing project before.
Oh, okay.
And other members of the church had gone
To school, to dental school.
because it was good housing, and it was how much per month?
It was, one time it was like $20, and then another time I think they upped it, and it was like $40 a month that we had to pay. And that was a 2-bedroom apartment and 1 bath, kitchen.
How about utilities?
And I think we had to pay utilities, but I'm not positive of that. I can't remember for sure.
Okay.
But it was very cheap, no matter whether we paid the.
What, was it a large complex, or was it?
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, one summer we had to paint all of them.
Oh, okay.
And fix them up again. And they, but it was a big project. I would say probably 50. Maybe 50 units.
Okay.
Yes, yes, that's true. Yeah, they were really.
As an aside, when I lived in Portland, shortly after I was married, my plan was to go to dental school also. And it was very interesting that the dental students that were there, members of the church typically, that were kind of help each other, they were all about managing apartments. And so that's some of the things that we did. We managed a 20-unit complex, and that made our rent free. And if we did have renters that moved out and things, if we painted the apartments to freshen them up and things, they paid us a little bit of money, but our rent was free.
So, what?
Anyway.
I didn't know that, Chad.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
So go ahead.
Anyway, it wasn't too long also when we got back that I got a job working for a paint company. The same one that Vaughn and Floyd and Ronald all worked for when they were in dental school. Savage Paint Company it's called. And they painted bridges mainly, but they also got bids on buildings. And
For painting.
painting this outside
Gotcha.
the buildings. And anyway, because of the little Renault and going all that way, it put Talmadge into a position where she went into labor earlier than we thought, by about 2-3 weeks early. And so anyway, she ended up in the hospital. She woke up this early one morning and convinced me that I needed to stay closer in rather than going out on the bridge, which I did. I went and called the manager there and
Now, when you say bridges, where were you? What bridges and where
well,
were they located?
like the closest bridge that I painted was the one right there in Portland, Oregon.
The steel bridge?
It's called the Steel Bridge. It's right one of the main ones that crosses the Willamette River. But some of them are further out, but that one. Anyway, so the manager says, well, we have this building we're painting and sanding right now. Well, I'll put you on that. And so I was on the 14th floor on the outside with a great big sander, rotating sander around. And all of a sudden, my left hand went numb on me, and that sander twirled on me and went right into my stomach. And I pressed it against the wall because I'd had nothing to hold me in. I was on a plank, 14 stories up, and it was going to knock me off. And I pressed me right into the wall and ground that to a halt. And it went clear through my clothes, my coat and my clothes, and it got to the garments and stopped. And I was okay. And anyway, by this time I already had her in the hospital. I went to the hospital. I found out that the baby was already born, which was, we named Chad.
Well,
Chad Meredith Packard.
that's right. That morning when I felt like that I was in labor, I wasn't really sure because I really I didn't go to the doctor because I was that far along, and I didn't know anybody.
Because when you left Salt Lake, you were already 8 months pregnant,
That's
almost,
correct.
or close
Right,
there too.
right. And I had a good LDS doctor there that I, went to and stuff like that. And he told me when it would be, expected. And
We
all
thought
that
it was
good
a whole nother month almost. It was 3 weeks we were.
But anyway, so I said to him, "Let you stay." And so he went and got me some flowers. Now, this is the interesting thing about being poor. Anyway, he went and got me these flowers. And, you can buy these little, they're straw flowers. They're not real flowers.
Mm-hmm.
They're just different kinds of flowers all put together into a little bouquet. Well, that's what he brought me for when you were born.
Mm-hmm.
Really special. Well, anyway, I didn't know any better, and of course he didn't either. But anyway, that when I went to the doctor, or went to have the baby, they gave me what is called a coddle. And what that is, it is an injection to numb, the delivery and stuff like that. And I'd never heard of it before, but that's what it was 60 years ago. Now it's epidurals and gas and stuff like that. Well, anyway, the delivery was fine. I didn't have any problems.
And that was where?
That was at the Multnomah Portland
County
Hospital. Yes, in Portland.
Up on the hill next to the dental school.
That's correct. Yes.
And the medical school was up there, and so there's 3 or 4 hospitals up there. And you were Premie. You were underweight.
You were only 5'3" or 5'2" when you were born. 5'2".
Really?
5'2". Yes. Yes.
That means they were going to keep you and wouldn't let us.
I just wish I was underweight today.
They wouldn't let us take you home.
Well, until you were up to a certain age. So
Certain weight.
When you came out of the hospital, you were like 5'7", 5'7", and you were fine at that time. Well, we were at home, and this is about 2 months.
No.
One day.
Is that right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct, honey. About 2 months. You were about 2 months old, and Bob had already started dental school. I was home alone, and anyway, you just started screaming and flipping your hands and scratching your face with your nails and stuff, and just really screaming, crying, and I couldn't figure out what in the world was wrong. Tried to feed you, tried to burp you. I tried everything, and I just couldn't get any for you to be quiet. So anyway, I checked your diaper. I went to check your diaper to see if you were wet, maybe messed or something like that. Anyway, I put my hand in the front of your diaper. In those days, they were cloth diapers,
Right.
no Pampers.
No Pampers or
No
Huggies or
Huggies,
Loves, whatever.
None of that. Just a good old soft cloth diaper. Well, anyway, I put my hand down in there to see if you were wet. And and I, of course, ran into your privates and stuff like that, and you really screamed. I mean, really screamed. So anyway, I took the diaper off, and your privates were just black and blue. Just black and blue. And I thought, oh, something's wrong. This is not good. This is not right. And so anyway, and this is the first time I've ever had done that. I drove myself up to the hospital myself in the car, and I had never driven. And you had to cross over all these bridges to get to the dental school, and so that was really the thing that I had to really make sure I was right.
Focusing on.
And that. And anyway, I arrived there. They immediately took you in, and they looked at you and stuff, and they didn't say anything. They didn't counsel with me. They didn't say, well, I don't see anything wrong, or this is wrong, or anything. And so
They just took you.
They just took you. And in those days, you didn't stay overnight. You just didn't stay with the child or your person. And so I went home. Bob came home.
Without taking you home.
You were left there. You were left there. And anyway, so Bob came home for dental school that afternoon, and we went through the night. And the next morning, and I hadn't heard anything, hadn't gotten a call to say how you were, what had happened, why was he crying and stuff like that. And so then Bob went to school with his buddies that were in dental school with him stopped in, and they told Bob, that they had to operate during the night. Well, they didn't call to ask permission. Can they do that? In those days, they just did it. So anyway, I arrive up there.
That you had a hernia, that they where the testicles descend is where that hernia takes place.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so they said, well, we had to operate. So when I arrived there, they took me into the room where you were, and here you were in this youth bed, big youth bed, not a little baby bed, a little bassinet or a smaller bed, but a youth bed. And here, like I said, you were only 5 pounds, just a little tiny little baby laying in there. Well, anyway, when I went over to kiss you and see how things were, you were laying with your head on the mattress, of course, and you were big and swollen on your head and yet flat on one side. And I thought, oh my heavens, my baby's not going to be normal. He's going to be...
And you found out it was true.
They were
Your
feeding
worst
you,
nightmare came to pass.
They were hooking you up through a vein.
In the soft spot. In the soft spot,
yeah.
not on the side. In
And
the
they,
soft spot.
That the needle had slipped out.
And
the
all
fluid
of the fluid had,
dripped
filtered
into the brain.
into your head, where the brain is.
And the bones were floating.
Oh, gosh.
And it really scared me to death. I started crying, and I said to the doctor, he'll never be normal. There's something wrong there. What is this? And he said, no, everything's going to be all right. Kind of tapped me on the shoulder. He said, everything's going to be all right. He said, just that the brain has not, your body hasn't absorbed all of the fluid.
Yeah.
And it's just up in there. He says, it'll go away. He'll be perfectly fine. And then they told me, they said, well, he did have a hernia, and we did have to operate last night. And he said, and I noticed they showed me took down the diaper and showed me that there was just a little Band-Aid on one side where the hernia had been
a Band-Aid.
cut. Like a Band-Aid. And I said, and he said, now that'll make him cry if he, wets. He said it'll be stingy.
Yeah.
And so he'll really be, crying. And he said, but now, I said, so should I worry about that? Do I need to put another one on? He said, oh, it'll come off. He said, you can if you want to, but you don't have to. He said, it'll be fine. And so I'm looking at it, and it was about an inch long. That the incision was about an inch long with a few stitches. And then, of course, the stitches in those days were, the dissolvable kind, or they would dissolve and you wouldn't have to do anything. And sure enough, I took you home, and again, you started crying.
Not that quick.
And
how many days was he?
Oh, it was just one day, I think, 1 or 2. It wasn't a long time.
Couple days.
Just a couple days. And so anyway, took you home, and he said it should be fine. And it was. We didn't have any more trouble.
Did you hear that, everybody? There's no more trouble after that.
No, there is.